Alright, hello everybody. Welcome to our next unit here. We're going to be talking about cognition and thinking. So our first lesson in this unit is ways of thinking. So our objectives and standards to describe different units of thought and to analyze the various kinds of thinking. Take a moment to read over the standards. And our desired result, how does the process of thinking work? So I want you to think about different ways that we use thinking and some different methods for thinking and how does that work. So moving beyond memory, you may wonder how you're able to read the sentence or understand what I'm saying, and thinking explains that. Plus, it also explains how we problem solve and how we are able to create something. So a definition of thinking is changing and reorganizing the information stored in memory to create new or transformed information. It also involves certain units or what we call devices. So they are listed here. So they are images, symbols, concepts, prototypes, and rules. So let's talk about images. An image is the most primitive unit of thought. It is a visual, mental representation of a specific event or object. Now, typically, it's not an exact copy of something, but it highlights the original. So an example of this could be, think about maybe a toy you had when you were a child, or maybe even a man remembers a toy that he had as a child. So he might remember different elements of it, but he won't probably remember the exact, shape or size of the toy. He might remember that his toy car had some red on it, and maybe it was, had some black or silver wheels, whatever the case may be. But, when we think about images, we don't always have the exact same specific image down to the exact details. So an effective way to think about concepts is through imaging. So in 1971, researchers Shepard and Metzler showed participants 1,600 pairs of genetic images, like you see on that picture there. They were asked if the pairs were identical or different. The researchers discovered that participants would rotate the images in their mind to see perspectives or patterns. So if you look at this, you can kind of see, that it is the same shape, and even though we can't physically turn the shape, right, we can turn it in our head or in our mind to match the images, right? So if you look at A, you can turn it to match that. If you look at B and C, so if you take a mental look at that, you'll see that you're able to turn those things to match, to make them matching pairs, and that's what thinking and images involve. So symbols, more abstract units of thought are known as symbols. So this could be a sound, an object, or a design that represents an abstract quality. Now, words are the most common form of symbols because images represent a specific object or sound, but symbols can represent multiple things. So exactly when I say tree, you may picture a tree in your head. If I say, a bear, you might picture a brown bear or a black bear. There's a bunch of different things. So that's how symbols work. There could be multiple things. If I say a cat, you might think of a red cat or a gray cat or a black cat. So it doesn't always have to be the same thing. And symbols can also represent things that are not present. They can also consider the past and the present. And they can also imagine situations or things that never will or never will be, such as like maybe a unicorn or a dragon or things like that. So using concepts, so symbols used as a label for a class or objects or events with at least one common attribute or the attribute itself are known as concepts. Now, examples of concepts that are based on common attributes are what we have here listed in these examples. So they enable us to chunk large amounts of information, such as we have the concept of animals, and we have the concepts of transportation. So we know that those are two big categories, right? Two very different things, but we can kind of imagine in our head what those concepts include. A dog, a cat for animals, transportation, an airplane, a train, and new pieces of information are not treated as unique since we already know something about those objects as to where they belong. So if I say tiger, you obviously know a tiger is not part of a transportation system. I mean, I'm sure some people may try to ride a tiger, not sure how well it will turn out for them, but we know that tigers belong in animals, and same with automobiles. If I say an automobile, you know that that goes into the category of concepts. So we can able to take things that may come up as new, and we can say, oh, well, that belongs in that category. So prototypes. So to think of a concept, we typically think of a representative example of it. A representation of a concept is known as a prototype. Now, it might not always be an example of what you have personally experienced. So, like, you might not have seen an angry tiger like this in person. You might have seen a tiger at the zoo that's sleeping. You might have seen, maybe a tiger on a documentary film or something like that, or in a movie. So each of our different prototype examples can be different. But oftentimes they explain the most characteristics of a particular concept. So again, looking at tiger, we know they're orange, they have black stripes, they have some white in them. So they might not always look specifically like this prototype I have here, but they have the attributes of it. Rules. So a statement of relation between concepts are known as rules. They're more complex units of thought. So examples could be, you cannot be in two places at the same time. Obviously, you can't be in an airplane and on a train at the same time. And the mass of an object remains the same despite changes in appearance. So these are examples of rules, and rules can be applied to concepts. So making mental activity. The building blocks of mental activity are images, symbols, concepts, prototypes, and rules. We've discussed all 5 of them. Each represents a way for a person to represent reality, manipulate it, maybe reorganize it, and devise new ways of acting. A person can think of different careers, think about the pros and the cons, and decide what to try. So that's kind of how thinking works, just how we talked about images, symbols, concepts, prototypes, and rules. We can apply that to reality when we're maybe looking for a job or trying to find a job. Directed and convergent thinking. A systematic and logical attempt to reach a specific answer or goal is known as directed or convergent thinking. So an example of this could be trying to find the solution to a math problem. There's certain steps that you must take or certain things you must do to find the exact answer. So that's just like in math. Here I have, 5 plus 7 plus 5. Well, we could break that down into, well, I know 5 plus 5 is 10, plus 7 equals 17. So there's certain steps you need to take to find the answer. They typically depend upon symbols, concepts, and rules, and they are deliberate and purposeful. So through directed and convergent thinking, we're able to solve problems, follow rules, such as like the speed limit or something like that, and work towards achieving a certain goal. Another type of thinking is known as non-directed or divergent thinking. So this is a free flow of thoughts with no particular plan that depends more on images. These usually include lots of images and feelings, typically part of like daydreams, fantasies, reveries, things like that. Now, most people will typically engage in non-directed or divergent thinking when they're bored, or maybe when you're relaxed. So maybe you're watching TV or reading a book and sitting on a beach or whatever, and you're relaxed, and you start to feel your mind wander. You start to kind of think about different things or whatever. So this is non-directed divergent thinking. It's just kind of free thinking. Now, divergent thinking, non-directed thinking can provide insight into a person's goals or beliefs. And most artists and scientists say that some of their best ideas come from non-directed or divergent thinking. And metacognition. There's a third type of thinking that's known as metacognition. And this is kind of crazy, but it involves thinking about thinking. So that's why I put the frog there, thinking about the frog thinking, thinking about the frog thinking. An example is like when you try to solve a math problem and you cannot solve it, you might say, this strategy is not working, I need to come up with something else. So you might try and think of another way to solve the problem. Or maybe you're trying to find your way out of somewhere if you're lost, or maybe you're trying to put something together, maybe trying to build a bookcase and you don't have the directions you're trying to put together, and you say, well, this screw can't go here, let me try putting this screw here, or this nail here. So you're thinking about how you're thinking. You're trying to solve the problem through another way. So that's metacognition. All right, So please try your best on the questions that follow, and I will hopefully talk to you guys soon. All right, in our closure, how does the process of thinking work? So our closure, how does the process of thinking work? Think about some of the methods and some of the elements of thinking, some of the things we talked about, like prototypes, and think about how different people think, or different ways that people can think about problems, or even thinking in general, and that'll help you with the questions. Hope you have a great rest of your day or night. Please let me know of any questions or concerns, and I hope to talk to you all again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.